Hello everyone, today I'm here to finally do my top books of 2016. Also a little bit of a breakdown of what I read, being nonfiction or fiction, or being a specific kind of genre or for a specific kind of age group. So first I'll discuss this breakdown. I ended up reading almost 70% fiction and about 30% nonfiction. And this is something that I think I want to change in my reading for 2017. Definitely read more nonfiction. Try to make it to be 50-50 or at least 40-60. The next thing I wanted to look at is if I read mostly children's literature, mostly young adult, or mostly for adults. Definitely the majority of what I read was for adult audiences, so I read about 63% for adults. One thing that really surprised me is that I read more young adult than I thought that I did. I read 22% young adult literature here, and I was kind of lenient in the way I categorized this. The young adult that I did read this year, I have to say, was pretty good. And then the last age group is for children's, and for this one I read about 14%, almost 15%. And the last thing that I wanted to look at was kind of the genre breakdown. This was a lot harder to decipher than fiction or nonfiction and what kind of age group it's aimed at, because a lot of things that I read are multiple things. I tried my best, and I tried to make really big umbrella terms. What I read most of was coming of age stories. I'm very broad when it comes to defining coming of age, but any story where there is some beginning feelings about a person and they grow throughout the novel or throughout the story and become a different person towards the end. One surprising thing that I found is that I read 13.7% fantasy books this year, and yes, I did read a lot of series that were fantasy, like I finished Harry Potter, I read the Locke and Key series, and I read lots of other things that would classify as fantasy that have more than one book to them, so that's kind of where I think they stacked up, but very surprising. The next top thing after that was memoir, which I couldn't see it happening. After memoir, the next top thing was social issues, and for that I read almost 10%, and this is probably where a lot of the nonfiction came in, because that's one of the things that I really look for in nonfiction, is them discussing social issues that I'm interested in learning more of. And the next one that had a percentage, and we'll stop there, is 7.8%, and that was science fiction, which again, like fantasy, was a little bit surprising to me. What I did want to focus on in the new year is for me to read more social issue books, more magical realism, more classics definitely, and see if I could dabble in some more coming of age stories that I really enjoy. So that's it for breakdowns. Now let's get to the books that I really enjoyed in 2016 and have left a lasting impression. So let's open up my book. Number 10 is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. I truly enjoyed it. I thought it did comedy really well. I thought that it handled so many deep issues in a way that was still lighthearted and not like super gloomy. It brought to light new things that I don't really think about, and a character that I've never really encountered before. The next thing on this list, number 9, is the Locke and Key series, and this is the one that I was talking about, that it probably added up a lot of my fantasy ones. Locke and Key is so good! I need to reread it, honestly. I read it at the beginning of the year in January, and I just read them back to back to back to back. These are by Joe Hill, who is very well known for his horror and kind of suspense thriller kind of books. It was like everything that it needed to be, 6 volumes and done, and the story is complete, and I thought the writing was really what was the most well done, along with the characters. They were fully fledged characters in only 6 volumes, and I just loved the way that it was written throughout. It really kept me engrossed. The next book I put on here for number 8 was The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This was a very thought-provoking, informative, kind of like expanded my mind to an issue and a topic that I did not know much about. This was a sciencey book, but it was also a book about race and class and social issues of that sort. It was also a history lesson to me, and it really made me learn more about this family, this story, and especially this one woman who is the daughter of Henrietta Lacks named Deborah, who really has stayed with me in my heart through everything that she went through as she was learning what her mom went through. The next book on this list is number 7, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, number 2. This is the book that really stuck with me from the 3 that I read in the series this past year. It explored the characters so well. I think that what number 2 did better than number 1 and number 3 was emotional connection to me. I really cared about their stories, and I really felt for them, and it was the only one of the 3 so far that I have like legitimately teared up and like tears were falling down down my eyes. These girls are just so special. I think Brashares really does a great job at writing them to be three-dimensional, amazing, complex characters who are still teenage girls. The next book on this list, number 6, was My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, and this is the one that I mentioned that wasn't going to be on here if I had done my video for my top books of the year sooner. It kind of snuck in there, and I'm so glad I ended up reading this book. I've already put the next one on hold at the library, so I'm just waiting for it to come. It is just a wonderful story about these two girls, the way that they grow throughout those 300 pages. It left me thinking about all the things that I read in the first like 250 pages and what it means for like the last 50 pages. The next book on this list, number 5, is Kindred. It really surpassed my expectations. It had me so tense, and I found that the issues explored were captivating, insightful, and pretty gray subject matter. Number 4 on this list is Into Thin Air. Like Kindred, it was very gripping in that it made you like second guess and made you tense and nervous. I just thought it was a super exciting adventure story that's also devastating at the same time, so the consequences are really real, and learning more about what it takes to do that, kind of the history of it and why people have done it in the past, and what it means when you mess up during a disaster. It's definitely a style of story that I would want to continue reading, these kinds of adventure mountain stories. The next book on this list is Ghettoside, and this book, like the other nonfiction that I have mentioned, opened up my mind and made me learn a lot. Ghettoside is also a social issue kind of book, like the breakdown was mentioning. It looks into race and history and policing in America, especially focused in South Central Los Angeles. The best thing here is the writing. I think it's her investigative descriptions that complete the story. It makes you feel like you are there, like you can tell who these people are and everything that they believe, whether you agree with what they believe or not. The next book on this list is Harry Potter number 6. By far my favorite book in the series. It is the one that made me cry. It is the one that left me feeling so many things for all the characters, Harry and Dumbledore. I just connected deeply with this book and how it ended. And last but not least, the number 1 thing series that I read this year was the March series by Congressman John Lewis. This series just truly was the most important thing that I read this year, not just because it was an election year, but just because of the state of our society today. I feel like these history lessons are very important for us to remind ourselves of where we've been, just to give you a sort of understanding the work that it took to accomplish the civil rights agenda. With this new Congress, with this new incoming president, with all of these new changes happening to our society, I just want to keep this history alive, and I want to keep this at the forefront of your mind too. So I think it was a very digestible, difficult, important read. Those are the 10 books slash series, because some of them are series, that I read this year that I really truly found fascinating, intriguing, important, thought-provoking, and that really challenged me and made me grow as a person. That's really all I look for in books. That's all I want from books. Thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in my next one, which should probably be my January TBR. Bye.